I think we're too mean to each other on this show sometimes. It's all for fun.
I don't think we're too mean to each other.
It's all for fun, right? Right?
This is a normal day. So, yeah, it's just all for
Elyse is
love.
mean. Elyse is mean to me.
You're the nice one. I'm the
know,
mean one.
I know. I'm the nice one. And if I'm the nice one, whew, what does that make you?
The mean one.
Vow, view, vow, view, vow, view, vow, view,
Vow to view, vow, 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 vow to view. Vow to view each other's movies, even though we don't always like them, but it's okay because we love each other and movies too.
Hey everyone, welcome to Vow to View, a Doof Media podcast all about marriage and sometimes all about marriage and the things we make each other watch. My name is Elyse Daly.
What are you doing there?
Nothing.
And I'm Scott Daly.
And together, we're the Dailies.
Dailies.
I meant to try and change it because it's like, and sometimes it's about marriage.
Oh, you tried to
Only
audible.
I tried to audible that, but I'd already said the part that I was supposed to say, so I messed
Man,
it
you
up.
fumbled the ball. Oh, God, it's terrible.
It's okay. They didn't quite steal it to score for a touchdown because I finished it. No, I got it back and I finished it.
And then while we were talking about this, they scored again because you forgot to put defense. Oh, no.
I must be the Eagles. I'm just kidding.
Whoa. Whoa.
I meant the Cowboys,
Not
right?
cool.
I meant...
Yes, you did mean the Cowboys.
Okay.
For the sake of our marriage, you meant the Cowboys. Don't even mess around with me.
Scott, what's this podcast about?
It's about you.
Football?
And me. And the things we like to
catching
make each other watch.
Pigskins?
No.
No.
No. Each and every week, my wife Elyse and I select a movie loosely tied to a theme of one of our choosing, and then we make each other watch it. This week, Elyse is old. And by old, I mean she's 30. And it's okay for me to say this because she wrote it.
Yeah.
But because... What? But because of a movie, I now have to say 30 flirting and thriving. What movie?
13 going on 30.
That's what that's from?
That's what I always
thought
say it
that's just an
from.
expression.
30, flirty, and thriving.
So for the next 2 weeks, we'll be watching movies that are turning 30 this year, like my wife.
Who already did.
She's
already
you're
passed
basically 31 now.
I am in my 31st year now.
Yeah. And we will be beginning this theme with Elise's pick, Steel Magnolias.
We will, Scott. We will be beginning with Steel Magnolias.
Mongolians.
But before... No, I spelled it right. Before we talk about Steel Magnolias, we're first going to talk about one of my favorite shows that is not turning 30. I have no idea how many Bachelor seasons there have been, how many Bachelorette, but cumulatively it would have been more than 30.
It feels like infinity.
An infinite amount, yes. Yeah. But infinitely good. Particularly this season. I beg to say Scott's favorite season of The Bachelorette that he has watched thus far.
You know, I guess. I mean, it's tough to have favorites when everything is bad.
But this season, particularly this episode, you really enjoyed it. So this episode's segment of The Bachelorette.
Luke P.
Can you do that again, please?
Luke P.
Luke P?
Yeah, like I'm throwing up, but I'm saying his name because he is like throw up.
Oh.
Luke
I thought
P.
you said Luke P. Luke P. That's exactly right. We are wanting to get Luke P out of our systems, out of our minds. This is the Men Tell All episode, which is normally the worst episode of the entire season, aside from the very first episode where it's all about their like backstories and getting out of the limo, which is really boring. But this episode, the season's Men Tell All, was particularly more entertaining because at the beginning of the episode, they had to put in, or rather they chose to put in, a little bit of the rose ceremony from the fantasy suites down to the last two. And in that, she had already told
Why
Luke,
would they put that rose ceremony in there?
Because of what happened with Luke P.
So
you guys already know how much we hated Luke P last week. You already know what happened with him, about him being very rude to her, about their fantasy suite, about him getting sent home.
Please, let's not rehash that.
But he came back, Scott.
He won't.
He came back to the rose ceremony.
He did. Because he needed the final word. He brought a ring with him because he was still convinced. Like,
I'm sure it's a Neil Lane ring.
You kind of see, of course, you kind of see in his mind this scenario where he comes in, he says, "No, you don't understand. You misunderstood me, and let me explain." And she goes, "Oh, Luke, I see now."
Scott's hand is on his forehead like a damsel in distress.
"And I have realized that I love you and I need you, Luke. And if only you had a ring." And then he's like, "Well, I just so happen to have one." And then she goes, "Oh, let's get married now."
Yeah.
Of course, that's not what happened.
But you know, like Luke P is like that pimple that you try and get rid of.
Luke Pimple.
And it's like you pop it, but then you realize that it was like so deep underneath that it keeps coming back, and you try and get all the guts out so it never goes away.
Yeah.
But it just takes a long
Luke
time.
P is like a pimple that never goes away.
Yeah.
Or as some people call it, herpes. Herpes.
You're funny. Anyways, so he comes back and then he's like, "Hannah, I need some clarity. I need some closure." He doesn't say "or" like he says that he does later in the mental all. I'm pretty sure he just says, "I need some clarity. I need some closure." She's like, "I gave you that. I don't want to give it to you anymore." And he's like, "Well, I'm not leaving until we get to talk about it." And she goes, "Well, okay." So she picks up the rose ceremony podium and moves it forward in front of him so that all she has in front of her are the 3 minutes she wants there, and goes, "Okay then." And that is when Scott rewound it.
It is the greatest moment in the history of the show. I love this woman. I think she's fantastic. And that was the perfect thing. She's like, she says, "Get out of my face."
Yeah.
And he says, "No, I'm not. I'm going to stand right here." And she goes, "Oh, okay then." And she just picks up the podium and walks 2 steps forward and sets it down.
This Scott.
It is like,
This is better than the fence.
Not only is it like amazing, like it's just an amazing thing to do, but Hannah B, just the way she does it, the look on her face, and the way she lifts the podium and sets it down, girl's got comedic timing a little bit. I like her.
I mean, she didn't intend it for it to be funny. She meant for it to be like, "You get out of my face and you leave."
I think she thought it would be a little funny.
I mean, maybe she thought it'd be funny. She's got kind of
it's
sense
gonna
of
be a
humor,
little
but still. Anyways, he doesn't want to leave, and then he finally ends up leaving. So the men tell all comes around.
Well, no, here's what I want to say about it.
Okay,
though.
please do tell.
Because here's what I hate.
Scott does tell.
Here's what I hate about it. I hate that, like, at one point, Chris Harrison comes out and says, "What do you want to do, Hannah? This is your show. What do you want to do?" And I'm like, what she wants to do, Chris, is have him not come back in the first place. But your stupid producers couldn't resist. And that's like the whole thing. It's like he just crashes the rose ceremony. Like he just shows up. No, he didn't show up. He was in a show car. They said, "Do you want to come back?" Or he asked the producers, "Can I come back?" And they said yes. They absolutely said yes. And it's like pretending like he just showed up uninvited. It's like, no, they arranged this whole stupid thing. And if I were Hannah, I'd be pissed off.
He did say he was getting fitted for his suit.
Well, I just think they were probably doing that I think probably once you're in like the last 3, they're like, because that stuff takes time. They got to tailor that. So
I think that they were fitting him for a suit for that ceremony, and they knew perfectly well.
it's just,
They knew what they were doing.
I just hate that, like, there's this moment where she walks out there and then she sees him in the lineup with the other 3 guys, and she looks
At the producers.
not at him. She looks right at the camera and at the producers that are standing right behind the camera. And she just has this look of anger in her head because she knows that they did this.
She's like, "You were supposed to have my back.
Yeah.
And I trusted you, and you're doing stuff like this.
What
I'm
are you
sorry."
doing with the microphone?
It's just like I'm trying to move my foot over, and it just caught the microphone. She was like, "I'm trying to make friendships with you guys, and you're just screwing me over," and repeatedly keep on doing that. But anyways, you know what? We don't want to give Luke P any more time because, you know what? Luke P has got enough time this season. He's got enough time on that Men Tell All because Luke P was the only drama the entire season other than Cam, who so like sweetly saying, "Thank you, Luke, because you made me look like a saint because you royally screwed everyone over the entire episode." And it was just like, you know what? I'm so happy. It is done. I'm ready to move on. I'm so sorry it was so late. Thank you, Hannah. I accept your apology for, like saying.
Hannah, if you're listening, Elyse accepts your apology.
Yes. And so, you know what? We are all ready to move on. We are excited to see what happens next week. We are all rooting for you. We're very excited.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Why not? Oh, I have news too. Are you ready for my news?
I'm ready.
Okay. My little sister's friend made it to the top 16 finalists for the Dallas slot for the Bachelorette this season.
Wait, so they've had more than one person go from a city before?
So here's what happens, Scott.
Oh, insider trading.
Information. Are you ready?
I am.
As to hear why a lot of the men on The Bachelorette typically have girlfriends when they go into the show. And it's always the expose of, oh my gosh, you have a girlfriend, you left the show, and, you know, like I was jilted or whatever. You know why? Because they are recruited. The men for the season are recruited, whether it's been through like a video that is sit in and then they're scouted out and then the producer reaches out to them, or whether it be just the producer is like looking through people in the area that might fit a profile for the people that are going to be on the show, which is why a lot of them look the same way.
I don't understand what you mean.
They like there's
They
all
don't
these
send in
open
their
casting
stuff?
you know, there's all these open casting calls and
Yeah.
everything. So it's not like they really take anyone from the open casting call. They take people that have sent in things or people that are sought after that have ticked off like certain things based on their social media profiles. And then they are approached from the producers, and it is not them reaching out in order to be on the show.
So they don't submit anything to the show to be. So your sister's friend did not submit anything to ABC to the
He
show
did not.
at all.
He did not.
Well, then why do they have all these stupid open casting calls? Is it literally just to foster the illusion that there's people walking up?
It might be that. It might be to be like, well, let's at least get a stockpile of people, and then they start going through it, and it's whether they showed up or not, or like made it past a certain thing. It's like they may not make it this season, they make it 5 seasons down the road, sort of thing.
This is like when I learned that House Hunters, they had already purchased the house. Mm-hmm. And the other 2 houses
Yeah.
they're looking at are just random houses that the producers pick
Yeah.
for them to look
Yeah.
at.
Because you look at the guy that my sister knows and the guy that got the Dallas slot, and their like look, their physical look, same.
I mean, yeah, I just thought that they like thousands of people submitted and they just
No.
wheedled it down to the
No,
Wheedled.
that's not
Whittled
it,
it down.
Scott.
They
That
just-
is not
they
it.
just poke 'em on it
So
down to
there
the
is
one
like
I want.
certain areas of the country there are slots that they fill, which is why there's always people from Texas. There's a lot of people that usually come from Dallas, you know, like there's always someone from Dallas
a
because
big
it's
city.
the Dallas slot. Anyways, learn some information, some, background
You know what,
information
Elyse?
about the
I
Bachelorette.
am so upset about this and so
Yes.
horrified that I don't think we should watch the show anymore.
Oh, we're going to.
Fine.
You were interested in the Bachelor in Paradise preview. You remember what Demi said?
What did Demi say?
I'm so in love with this
Oh
woman.
yeah, there's the first LGBT hookups happening on The Bachelor ever, which is cool. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
There's 2 big storylines this next season. They both were teased. I don't know if you picked up on both of them. You picked up on one of them.
I really only half watched the show. You realize that, right?
Yes. Okay. But anyways,
So that's The Bachelor.
Your Rosie next week is going to be the fact that this show's almost done.
Yeah, I guess.
I think. I'm predicting. But what is your Rosie this week, Scott? We're moving into the segment to where it's the highs and the lows.
The Rosies and the Thornies.
The Rosies,
the good and the bad.
Thornies.
The Bachelors and the Veronica Marses.
The sunshine and the cloud. Sunnies and cloudies.
Do you want to start with the good? I thought we started with the
We
bad.
might start with the bad. Yeah.
Well,
so
you
what's
said
your bad
Rosie,
thing?
but you said Rosie.
Sorry, I did that last week too,
Do
Scott.
you
What
know
is
what
your
a rose is? The rose is the good part.
the rose is the flower, the thorn is the bad. So I want to know, what is your thorn?
My thorn
Yes.
is your rose, ironically enough.
So maybe we should let my thorn go first.
Sure.
But I guess my thorn plays into my rose as well.
And my rose plays into your rose.
Okay, you may go first. I concede.
So my thorn is that Elyse abandoned me this weekend and left me alone with 2 dogs. And I was all alone all weekend.
That was the deal.
And I was so lonely, and I didn't have anything to do, and
Yes, you did.
there was no food in the house, and I starved. And
You did not.
The house almost burned down.
It did not. Did it really? What'd you do?
I don't know. Like I wanted to heat up some food, and I didn't know how to work the stove, so I just got some wood and just lit it on fire, and then the
now
house
you're
is
just
almost
telling
burning
lies,
down.
like Luke.
No, you were just gone all weekend. And
I was gone. Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not saying this to guilt you. I'm not saying this is my thorn to make you feel bad.
'Kay.
We spend time apart from each other
Yeah,
every once in a
we
while,
talked about this
and
last,
that is healthy.
not last week, but a couple
and
weeks
that is
ago.
healthy and good to do that.
Yeah, it is.
But that doesn't mean it's not a bummer. And
You were very sweet to me when I came back. It was very nice.
I bought
you
Elyse
got me some goodies.
snackies because of her thorn, which is
Okay, guys. So those of you who are not from Texas have probably experienced traffic if you drive, or if you don't, and you have been
no,
in.
I'm sorry, Elyse. I
some
regret
sort of
to
other
inform
car.
you that only in the state of Texas is there traffic. Nowhere else.
It's true.
Nowhere else.
It's true. Traffic in Texas and California. Those are the only 2 places.
Yeah, in fact, they don't even have cars in New York City.
They don't.
None. 0 cars.
That is scandalous,
Yeah.
Scott. So anyways, I'm driving back from Austin to Dallas this weekend, and I left my little sister's house at a little before 1:30, but I had to go stop and get gas. So I think by the time I actually got onto the highway that you take for the majority of the time from Austin to Dallas, it was about 1:40.
You texted me at 2:15 whining.
I had already been on the road for some time, but I had at that point I was holding my plant, and so I couldn't actually hold my plant and then
That's
text you at
terrifying.
the same time,
That's
because then I wouldn't have had any hands on the
absolutely
wheel.
terrifying.
And so it had been after a while, I decided to put the plant down and hold it a different way so that it was in between my legs, but still not going to spill over. So anyways,
So yeah, if you live in Dallas or
Yes.
Austin or have traveled between Dallas and Austin before,
You know.
you know about I-35, and you know about a little town on I-35 between Waco and Austin called Temple, Texas.
it wasn't even the construction from there. It was just
It's not
the
always
wrecks.
construction. It's just
There
Temple.
were so many.
Belton Temple, north of Georgetown, always has traffic. Whether
there
it's
was traffic
construction,
before
whether
then.
whether it's wrecks, whether it's just this fucking area just is gonna slow down. There's always traffic there.
Scott,
Yeah.
this is my thorn.
Wow. Please continue.
Anyways, I'm driving and I put it in the phone because I was like, you know what? I want to make sure that I get there in the best, time, the
'Cause you
best
missed
route.
me.
And so I put it on my phone and it was 3 hours and 39 minutes. I was like, man, this is a long time.
That's
and then
normal.
it kept creeping. It kept getting longer and longer. And then I would get to different towns and it would be longer than the time that I initially started within Austin. It was like, guys, figuratively speaking.
Guys,
It's like,
the,
guys.
the map people.
Yes. I was like, this is too long. And it ended up being, I was just in a parking lot practically on 35. It got to the point where I was at Temple. I was around exit 300 and I was just parked. I literally almost put my car in park. I was so frustrated that I wasn't moving for so long. And then
Yeah,
I saw
that'll
this cop
teach it.
car come out and the cop car pulled over because there was a wreck that happened probably 50 to 100 feet in front of me. Just because they were in traffic and they probably accidentally rammed into the car that was in front of them. So then there was another wreck that was in there. So then my phone rerouted me.
And what did you do, Elyse?
And I drove over the exit median.
You did a crime.
I don't care. I don't
did
think it's a crime. I think it was an acceptable
did a
thing.
crime.
Because you know what? One crime where I just go over the median.
Mm-hmm.
Another crime where I'm driven to a point of frustration where something more dangerous could have happened, Scott.
That's
You
interesting.
know what? I'm not saying what could have happened, but something worse could
That's
have happened.
Very, very faulty
Yes.
legal
So
logic.
anyways, it was just, I don't do well in traffic. I didn't do well in traffic when I'm by myself. Luckily, I
Elyse
had
gets
2
very
plants that were
mad
with
in
me,
traffic.
so I had something that was helping me through the situation. But
Some of the angriest I've ever seen my lovely wife is when she's sitting in traffic, texting or calling me. Remember, it was your birthday dinner?
Oh, last
when we were
year.
going to sushi.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You almost,
that was
you
not
almost
good.
killed us on the way to the restaurant.
Yeah.
You were driving
One
so
time
crazy.
I hurt my hand really bad for a few days because I got so frustrated. All I could do was hit my steering wheel. And I hit it so hard that I hurt my hand. Anyways, story over. Scott, what is your rose for this week?
My rose, what is, oh, yeah. I thought we'd move right into your rose since we were kind of circling around it, but
No,
that's fine.
You then me, then you, then me.
My
back
rose
and forth, and
is
backsies forth.
My rose is a little game called Final Fantasy.
Ah, yes, do tell.
14. Mm-hmm. Did I do this already?
You probably did, but it's fine. You have a new layer to add on to it this week that involves me.
No. So the new expansion for this game, I'm going to check because I feel like I've done this before.
I think you have, but the new layer that I am alluding to is the fact that Scott decided to include me on Final Fantasy, and he helped me make a character and get to what, level 4, level 5? One of the two. That way I could get my little fairy that could walk around with me, which I just think is the cutest little thing. Now, am I very good at video games? No, but you know what? The controls on this one are much better because the controls on the other ones, I'm like all over the place. You know, the camera angle goes everywhere. It makes me kind of sick.
This is my rose.
Yes. Well, I was trying to stall while you were looking things up. There's a difference between taking over the rosy thorny because I'm trying to stall versus like just taking it over.
You're still doing it though. You're still doing it.
Please, after you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So a new expansion in this game came out at the beginning of July, just I think right before we left on our trip. It's called Shadowbringers. This is an MMORPG, and I have been addicted to MMORPGs since 1999.
I was trying to scoot my chair in.
You're just doing a lot of weird stuff. I love these kind of games. I've always played these kind of games since I started playing the original EverQuest, and I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 recently, and I like it a whole bunch.
My character's real cute.
And yeah, I had Elyse make a character. The funny thing about watching Elyse play this game is like watching Elyse play any game is really fascinating to me because there are things about games that I just know
innately because you play
because
games.
I've been playing them for so long, and like you have none of that.
You know what games I play?
What games?
Games with you.
So like
and your mind.
So like there's just parts of this game that I don't even think about having to teach someone or making the game teach me because it's second nature to me. Like running around, like using the mouse to aim the camera and using WASD to move are just like second nature to me at this point in my life. And the thing I will say about Final Fantasy 14 is
much easier.
It does do a pretty good job of laying these systems out for you in the tutorial. Like
Except
what? Except what?
When I'm with you.
I say skip that, and I'll tell you. Well, I will.
But who's to say I really got all the information or just what you thought were the highlights?
Trust me. I will not lead you astray.
Scott, when I go to a museum, I like to read everything.
Well, that's boring.
But it gives me the full picture of what I need to know.
We don't have time for that. We're trying to get you to the fairy pet, which you still don't have, by the way.
Yes, I do. I have a little cute one.
No, you have a carbuncle. You do not
so
have a fairy.
cute, though. Like, the word carbuncle is even fun. Like a peduncle.
Like a peduncle. Elyse, let's quiz your Final Fantasy, not your Final Fantasy knowledge.
Okay.
Let's quiz your MMORPG knowledge. First,
what does MMORPG stand for?
What does MMORPG stand for?
MMORP.
G.
Mm-hmm.
Any guesses?
Multiple mode.
Okay.
MMORPG. Player game. Multiple mode. Something real player game.
It's really close.
Is it?
No.
Did I get any of the words right?
Kind of.
Is the word G for game?
Yes.
See, I got one right.
Massively multiplayer.
Massively multiplayer.
Online. Role playing game.
Role playing game. Yeah. RPG, I got that. Okay.
So an RPG is a role playing game, and this is an
RG3?
What? No, not Robert Griffin III. Okay, Elyse, next question.
I wonder if he plays.
What is the holy trinity of roles within an MMORPG. The traditional Holy Trinity.
We
There are
have
3
the
different types.
healer.
Okay.
We have the muscle.
Okay. What is the muscle? What is the
Thug?
role of the muscle? What do
Is
they
that the
do?
Thug.
What do they do?
They attack.
Okay.
They attack.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that right?
Well, we'll have you finish.
So we have
and
the
then-
one that like goes and charges at the boss.
Okay.
And we have the one that takes the damage.
What
and
are
then
they
we
called?
damage taker. And then we have the one that heals.
Uh-huh.
See, aren't those the 3?
Yeah.
They're roles.
Yeah.
See, I'm remembering this.
Uh-huh. But you don't remember any of their names? Healer, you got right. There's the healer,
Yes.
the tank,
The tank.
and they take the damage.
They take the damage.
And there's another. It's DPS. What does DPS stand for?
Dallas Police Station?
Yes, but also damage per second.
Damage per second.
It's just a term that's become assigned to the damage dealer role in a group.
But I had the 3 roles right.
You basically got it. Yeah.
See, who cares about the names as long as you know what they do?
And what are the 2 types of damage dealing classes? There are ones that attack from really far away, and there are ones that attack from right or up
I
close.
have not learned this yet.
Oh, I told it to you, but you weren't paying
No, I
attention.
don't think that you did.
Elyse, why don't you go get the dog, because I can see you really want to go get the dog.
Oh, thank
You're-
you.
you're-
I will go
you're
deal
sitting there.
damage from very far away while I let the dog out. And you will deal damage from very far close while you talk to people in the microphone.
Well, I'm not gonna do. I'm just gonna edit this part out of the show. She's leaving. There she goes, and the other dog is following her. Elisa's dog. Literally every time we sit down to record a podcast, Elisa's dog decides that is going to be the time that she demands to go outside, and if we don't let her, she gets very, very angry. So we have to do that. We can't just ignore her because Elyse is physically
And now you're not going to edit this out because
incapable
you were
of doing
talking.
that. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying Final Fantasy 14. I've always loved the Final Fantasy games since I was a kid. It's just like a thing. Like one of the first games I played with my dad was the original Final Fantasy on the Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as NES. And
Okay.
so the
Are we
new
moving on
expansion
to
came
me?
out. It's one of the best stories I've played in a Final Fantasy game in a long time. You know, the stories in these
You
games.
skip through the story for me. You skip through it all.
I
I
didn't.
don't know what the story is.
They haven't really started yet.
I don't know anything about the twins that were on the boat.
You haven't learned anything about them yet.
Well, I know that there were twins on a boat.
It's not a.
Ship.
Yeah.
Ship, boat. Who cares? Same thing.
All right, so that's Final Fantasy 14. Shadowbringers on sale now.
Okay, are you ready for me?
Yeah.
Okay, so my Rosie this week was I went to Austin. And it was really exciting because I went to go see both of my sisters. They both live down there now. And so we had a fun little trip. I got to see my little sister. I haven't seen her in a while. She moved to a new place. And I got to see her new digs. It's very cute. And then I got to go see my older sister because she moved down there because she just got a job. Got to see her new digs.
What do you think?
was really good.
What do you think the word origin of digs as representative of the place I live?
Oh, yes.
is?
So there are cave dwellers and they dig holes into the side of a mountain. And so it's like, hey, the diggers dig where they live.
Yeah.
It's their digs.
This is where I dig.
This is where I dig.
The thing I like about
You were
you.
surprised I knew that, right?
Okay. You didn't.
Or made it up.
You didn't
Either
know
one.
that.
Yeah. So the thing you like about me is what? Please do tell.
Is that you won't say, I don't know. You'll just say, this is why, and you'll just go with it. And you believe it so firmly that when I call you on it, you're like, oh, you're surprised I knew that, actually. But you didn't know it. You just made
I
it up.
want you to look up the word origin and tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Because I think it's a really good place. You know,
Digs as dwelling.
digs is dwelling. Word origin. Is that why? I think it would be. I can't think of any other logical reason as to why they would say they're digs other than the cave dwellers dig things into the side of the mountain.
Interesting.
Yes, is there a different reason why?
I cannot prove this answer is correct, says Patrick Phillips, native,
Yes.
elderly, and posh English speaker, which is
yes.
actually what his account name
Okay,
is.
yes.
It's Patrick Phillips, native, elderly, and posh English speaker. He
Okay,
cannot
yes.
prove this is correct, but to settle down is said to be to dig in, as digging the foundation of a trench or to dig around a tent to make it water resistant, more secure. One might say, I have to dig in for the
Yes.
winter.
So you have to dig your home, like what I said.
From this, a slightly old-fashioned term, what a student accommodation or military uses of civilian lodging are traditionally known as digs. I believe actors on tour would also use the term digs if staying at a bed and breakfast
See,
house.
I'm correct. Correct. As usual, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyways, got to see their digs, got to hang out with them, got to see some new cool places.
It's short for diggings. This is the real answer. It's short for diggings, which is the older word for the same idea. That derives, as you might guess, from a place where one digs, a word that goes back to the 16th century.
Scott, I learned something while I was on my trip.
What'd you learn?
We took a distillery tour, and I learned why liquor is called spirits.
Why is liquor called spirits?
So, do you know this already?
No, but I can guess like digs. But go ahead.
Okay, no, I want you to guess
No, go
already
ahead,
because
go
I
ahead.
know the correct answer. So, no, I do want you to guess. See if you can determine why.
I don't actually know.
Oh, you don't?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so
Maybe because it makes you like think you're seeing ghosts.
it is not that reason. So, when you are making a liquor, you're actually supposed to evaporate it into certain
Yeah, I knew that.
things. And so, the first time that they were making the liquor, then they evaporated it, and they saw that that's what actually gave them the like drunken sensation was the spirit, like googly googly, like
Because they were like inhaling the alcohol fumes?
yeah, they thought it was spirits.
Interesting.
Anyways, that's why spirits ghouls. That's why it's called a spirit.
Good to know.
Yeah. Anyways, also, evidently, when you burn alcohol off from something and it's a high concentration, it is in 3 parts. It's called the head, the heart, and the tail. And the head is very potent and will make you extremely sick and sometimes kill you. So that's why whenever they were originally like doing, I guess they were making alcohol or whatever, and they were burning off the first part and then they would have it go back into the liquid concentration, they were upset at some people that were trying to throw away things because it was the first part and they thought that they were getting cheated out of it. So they mixed that back in with the heart part, which is like the actual liquor that you drink. But what they didn't know was that first part that's called the head is what makes you so drunk that it kills you. So, you know,
Trial
like
and
that's where the
error.
expression blind drunkenness comes from. And so they'd put it back in there and then people get really sick and they die.
It's too bad. Do you know where 3 Sheets to the Wind comes from?
I don't. Where does that come from? This is just like the trivia show.
It's like a sailing term. You know what it means, right?
No, do tell.
It's just like you're super, super drunk. The sheet is like the thing that controls the sail, right? And if
Yes.
you're 3 sheets to the wind, the sail is just flapping.
Oh, that
like
makes
a,
sense.
Like a flag.
That
So
makes
it's just
sense.
Not it's
Yes.
bad.
So
Anyway.
yes, those are our rosies and our thornies
Jinx.
for this week. It was a really fun weekend in Austin. I'm glad to be back.
I
It's
played
my
Final
last
Fantasy all weekend. It was great.
Scott, this is my last full week of the summer.
Really? Holy shit!
I go back next Thursday. That's August the 1st.
Bummer.
I know. So you better plan an epic date night next Wednesday
Why?
because it's my last night of summer and that's all up to you.
Why is it?
You got to do it. Already said.
Okay.
Done.
I guess
Epic date night.
I'll plan an epic date
I
night.
mean, like out of the box, so much fun.
Well, I
We're
was-
having a great
shit.
time.
It's really
Epic
hoping
date
to
night.
dig into that box.
Yeah.
The
So that
date
means we're
box.
not going to go see a movie.
But I like movies.
I know I do too, but we're make to do something different. We're trying to make
Elise,
sure it's a fun last night of
Speaking
summer.
of movies,
Yes.
transition.
We are going to go to the main event, the Still Magnolias movie turning 30 years old this year. It came out in 1989. Supposed to do this in a southern voice.
Just do it. Why do you have to say you're supposed to do it? Just do it.
Because when it's really bad, I want them to know that you asked me to do it in a southern voice. Still Magnolias is a story about a bunch of southern ladies who stand around in a salon and talk to each other a lot. Some of them are old and mean. Some of them are old and nice. Some of them are Sally Field. Some of them are Sally Field's daughter who dies. 5 stars.
So that is pretty accurate, I think.
It just
depiction
spoiled
of
the movie in the
Steel.
summary.
Are you fucking kidding? Like,
You didn't know who died. So there are some people who don't know who dies in this
Elise,
movie.
did I guess who died? I'm pretty sure that like Julia Roberts' character dies in Steel Magnolias is like the one thing that everybody knows about Steel Magnolias.
Did you know that before you watched the movie?
Yes, of course I did.
But then why were you like, does Julia Roberts die?
Because I was playing with you.
I don't know if you were. I think you were really asking a question. I didn't want to tell the answer,
Okay,
so I lied
so
to you. Yes,
you did
Scott,
lie to
tell me about your impression of Steel Magnolias.
You have to tell me why you picked it.
I have to tell you why I
first.
picked it. So this was one of the movies that when we were driving to Colorado or any sort of road trip, once we had all three seen it, we would have that in the regular rotation. We loved Steel Magnolias. It was one of those movies where like we wanted the armadillo cake. We wanted our colors to be blush and bashful. Meredith, my little sister, got her nickname Weezer because of this movie.
You called your poor little sister Weezer?
I didn't. Adrian did, because Meredith could never get mad at us.
Mean to her.
Well, it wasn't because like Weezer was just an awful character. It was because Meredith could not stay mad at us, like how Weezer couldn't stay mad at Clary in the whole movie.
You know, the whole movie, I thought they were saying Weezer, like the band.
Yeah, no, it's Ouiser.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I was like, why are they calling her Weezer? That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you picked this movie.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it just has a lot of sentimental value to me. We watched it a lot growing up. There are a lot of times that we'll quote the movie
Stock
together,
cast.
sisters. I mean, the cast is insane.
Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Daryl Hannah,
Daryl Hannah, Julia Roberts, and then I can't
Tom
remember.
Skerritt.
Who's the other sixth lady?
Olympia Dukakis,
Her. Dylan McDermott.
Kevin J. O'Connor, Anne Wedgeworth.
Yeah.
Jonathan
You
Ward.
just go through that whole list.
Phoebe
You just name
Besh.
them all. I mean, it is an amazing cast of women, and it was just like, it's a wonderful movie. It was based on a play. The play was produced in our high school little college theater group. That was also wonderful. I had a friend that was in it. I hadn't realized that a huge difference between the play versus the movie was that the play actually has no male characters. They're all just talked about from off screen, and
They're in the salon
they did a
like
lot.
the whole time. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a beautiful story about just the strength of women in the South. Wonderfully acted movie. The cemetery scene with Sally Field is iconic for those like monologues of wanting to have huge emotion shown through. It was in that one show that we watched that was on Netflix recently. But yeah, it's phenomenal.
She did that in one take.
Yeah, the
one
whole
take.
cemetery scene was in one take.
And they didn't do it again. It was one take. Done. Got it.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Sally Field is one of my favorite actors.
I was so
love her
surprised she
much.
wasn't nominated for an Academy Award for this one.
Not for this one, no. Yeah.
But it's phenomenal.
Fun fact that connects to earlier episodes. The director of the play, or the director and writer of the play was
Yes.
named Robert Harling, who you might know as the writer of another film we talked about on this podcast, The First Wives Club. Noticing a trend for this
Much
guy.
different. I think that this is a lot better than The First Wives Club.
I agree.
But both were good stories about women.
Yeah, stories about powerful women. Yeah. This is interesting to me. I enjoy this movie a lot. I had heard about this movie. I had never seen this movie. And one of the things that I think is,
It's so good.
if you look at a lot of the movies that you've seen and were important parts of your childhood versus the movies that I've seen and were important parts of my childhood, it's not just because we're different people who you were a little girl, I was a little boy. It's not just that. It's also, I was born in
You're
the
a
North.
Yankee.
I was born in New Jersey to parents who
Can't
spent
believe I married a Yankee.
who spent most of their lives in both. My parents were born in New York State. My dad was born in New York City. They spent most of their life up until the time we moved down here, up there. And you are born from two parents who were born in Texas. One of them, a small, tiny little town in West Texas.
300 or less population.
And I think that's so, like, this is very much a small southern town type of movie, right? And I'm not
It
saying
is.
that's why you guys liked it, because I'm sure my mom saw this movie and liked this movie.
I mean, this is a classic.
But I just like the reason it became like important to your family, I think to me is reflective of the fact that you are a Southern girl. You were born down here. You lived down here your entire life. And I'm not. So these movies were never, I don't think
like
my
Magnolia
sisters ever watched
trees.
this.
Magnolia trees were also big for our family because they were very prominent around where we lived too. And so like we knew the flower, and then we like learned the importance of the name behind the movie, and it's like it's very just iconic of the
What is
Southern.
the importance of the name behind the movie, Elyse?
So Magnolia being like women, flower, femininity, Magnolia, flower of the South, but steel as though it's like women of strength and of power. So even though they're feminine, they're still very powerful women.
Yeah, I mean, there's that scene at the end of the movie where where Sally Field is talking about how both her husband and her son-in-law
they left,
could not be in the room as they take her daughter off life support,
and
they're supposed to be made of steel, and of course she stayed. She had to stay. She couldn't leave because she's her mother and she's strong.
I was crying again. It was just
it's a very impactful part. I mean, that's why like I'm not worried about spoiling it, because I don't think you can talk about this movie without talking about like not a lot happens in this movie, right? This is a movie that feels like a play. It very much feels like a play. It is a lot of scenes of multiple characters sitting around one location and talking. And I really enjoyed this movie because I like plays. I think plays are fun. I think just like a thing that's completely reliant on dialogue, that is just a bunch of people sitting around, and it's completely reliant on the pace and the rhythm of dialogue to tell a story.
That's what we do, Scott. That's what you love to do.
Sure. I find that like enthralling, and I really get into them. And so like whenever we're watching a movie that used to be a play, like you can always tell, right? Like even if they're trying to do more with it and trying to new locations and new characters and movieify it a little bit, it's still, its roots are in that dialogue. And I thought the dialogue here was fantastic. I thought everyone did a really, really great job with this movie. Dolly Parton, who is in another movie we covered, 9 to 5. She's not the greatest actor in the world, but she did really good here.
And that was that other thing in trivia that we had read, that the director was horrible to all of these women.
Herbert Ross.
And he would just like go on and on about how terrible they were acting, particularly Dolly Parton and Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
All of them, he like eventually drove into tears about how awful they were and about how their acting was terrible. But I mean, like, they produced something that great. Not that that isn't like any excuses to his directing techniques, but I think it's more of in spite of what he did.
Yeah.
This is what came out of it.
Well, there's very much an old Hollywood tradition of the asshole director that pulls the performance out of you by being an asshole, and that was the Kubrick, Hitchcock, like those guys.
Tarantino.
Yeah, to an extent. I don't think quite as much as the other guys, but absolutely to an extent.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do, Elyse?
I'm just trying to live life as a woman in the 21st century here, babe.
But yeah, no, I really liked this movie. Even kind of knowing where the movie was going, and I think the movie telegraphs itself. Even if you somehow didn't know that Julia Roberts, like, one of the first scenes of the movie is Julia Roberts having a diabetic attack.
Yeah.
And
a severe diabetic
attack. And then the movie quickly pivots to this idea that she's going to she almost didn't get married because she feels bad because her husband wants kids, and she was specifically told by the doctors she shouldn't have kids. And then we move on to a new scene, and she's pregnant, and her mom is livid. And that's the most tragic part about it too, is because like her mom knew, like that.
And like you have to also realize, like a mom wants for that, you know, like, so it's not like something that she's probably had to go through the same grieving process that her daughter had to go through, in the sense that, my only daughter, the one that even though you're not supposed to have favorites and love the most, like, she loved her the most. I think it was very evident in the film that was the one that she had the closest connection to. And so it was like the fact that my daughter, my firstborn, is not going to be able to go through that entire process, like, that was probably hard for her. And we didn't see her go through that, but you could tell because of how much she loved her daughter that she had to go through that in order to be able to get to the point that she was, especially at the end of the film. But it was wonderful.
I think Sally Field makes that sells that in her performance.
Yeah.
How hard it was for her, and it's so tragic. Like it's just this horrible moment of "I told you so." It's
Yeah.
like the doctor told her, if you get pregnant, you're gonna hurt yourself, and she gets pregnant, and like this is a movie about powerful, strong women, absolutely. But this movie is primarily about a powerful, strong, loving mother. That I mean, Sally Field is the protagonist almost of this movie, and like it's so tragic because like she told her daughter, she's like, you get pregnant, like the doctor has told you this is going to be bad for you. She does it anyway. Then her daughter, her kidneys get cleaned out by the pregnancy. It weakens her to the point where she needs a kidney transplant, and Sally Field pops in and is like, okay, I'm going to give you my kidney. Then the kidney's rejected. She goes into a coma, and then Sally Field is there. And that monologue
scene
at the
with
end.
Daryl Hannah too at the end, where it's like she just loved everybody so much, and she wanted to take care of everybody so much that her body just wouldn't let her do that. I mean, that's the part where this time watching it through, I just started to tear up, where it was like someone who wants to do so much, who strives to do it as much as they can, to a certain extent, like you physically are not capable, and you just need to realize, it's okay, and everybody's gonna love you through that. And it's like having that balance of, I either can't care for these people how I want to, or caring for them so much is gonna take it all from me that they can't have me. And that, I mean, like, that's just such a difficult place to be in. And it's a beautiful movie. It's a tearjerker. You're not going to walk away from it feeling happy until probably the very, very end. But it's like that bittersweet happy of, like a new birth is going to be able to continue what substantial void was created throughout the movie.
Well, what I like that. So that beautiful scene where Sally Field goes from emotionally devastated to furious to laughing within like 20 seconds. And like that is so accurate to what your brain does, like in any kind of grief. And I've never
experienced something that big.
Never experienced something like that. I mean, I've lost grandparents and it was awful and tragic, but burying your child, like I can't imagine. But that seems so true to life to me. Like, and I love that the movie's not afraid to do that. Like, the movie lets the movie have its tragic scene, and I think anger out of grief is one of those emotions that I love. Yeah. Like, it's maybe awful to say, but I like seeing it is like it works on me, right? Like when she's furious, when she just like, I just don't understand. I'm so mad. Why? This is not the way it's supposed to be. I was ready to go. Like. That is
I think it's
so
just reassuring,
powerful,
because we go through that too,
right,
and it's like it's okay to be mad through it because everybody does it. And so once I get to that point, I can see, especially in this, like what peaks to the other side.
I just want to hit something, and then the one lady says, "Here, hit this," and pushes Weezer out there, and like it's this moment where like the anger and the grief breaks just momentarily, and you just laugh yourself till you start crying again. And I mean, that's so true to life. Like that's like the first time I was at a funeral in my life was my grandmother's death. And one of the things that 10-year-old Scott could not understand was people laughing at a funeral. Like I just couldn't get it. Like you have an image in your head of what a funeral is, of that everyone's just going to be sad. And yes, everyone was sad. Everyone was so sad. I will never forget the first thing my grandfather said to me. Like my grandfather sees me and says, "She's gone, Scott. I can't believe she's gone." And that like will be burned in my brain forever. And it's tragic because like he's this powerful dude. Like my grandpa was a guy who didn't wear oven mitts when he took shit out of the oven because his hands were like so fucking calloused. He could just he's a badass. He owned a drive-through diner, so he was like in kitchens like constantly, and pharmacy, a diner / pharmacy. And I will never forget that. But yeah, I was sitting in the funeral parlor, like listening to people joke around and laugh, like my brain couldn't comprehend that. And that is something you do. Like that's what part of grief is, thinking back and laughing. Like that's how I process tough emotions, is I make jokes. Like that's what I do. And so whenever I see that in movies, like that triggers that memory in me, and it's a very, very real feeling that works really well on me. And I think this movie captured that very well.
And I think this is also a good point to like take it to that point where we want to talk about relationships, because in this movie it is not highlighted as to like the relationships as far as marital goes, but it is like it is. In
fact, I would argue that the men in this movie are absent.
Because I mean they weren't in the original script at all, and so it's like these women who have this unbreakable bond only by death, despite the family tension that even happens in the neighborhood between some of them. It's like they're not going to let that break them. And I think that hopefully, as far as like going into marital sorts of stuff, you would hope that your marriage has the friend relationship foundation that these sorts of women have, knowing that there are certain things that probably, depending upon your friendships, you can get from other people more than certain ones, but like falling back on your spouse too in that sense, I think is really important, so that that you're getting it from all fronts.
I would hope we have that kind of relationship, but I do also think there is a fundamentally different relationship with your spouse than with your friends. Like even if you are best friends with your spouse, it's different. There's something different, and both of those relationships are important, right? It's important for you to have friends. It's important for you to have a group of people to fall back on that is not necessarily your spouse, because it's a different kind of relationship. Those people can serve different purposes in your life, and I think that's what we see here. Yes, Sally Field's husband, played by Tom Skerritt, who I love Tom Skerritt. Mm-hmm. He is there and he's grieving as well. And he's there's no indication that he's a bad husband to her. He just doesn't fill the role that Dolly Parton fills, that Shirley MacLaine fills, that Olympia Dukakis fills. Like he doesn't fill that role in her life, and these women are there to fill that role. And I think that's an important role. And
going off of like Dolly Parton's husband too.
Yeah.
Like he's gone, and I had always felt, until like I started watching it more recently, that he was one of those that like was not as connected to her and was like not a good husband. But at the same sense, like he's gone, he's working so that he can take care of her. And when he recognizes that this group of women that she is so intertwined with is struggling and has a loss, like without even her asking, he's going to be there.
Right. And
he offers to go to the funeral.
That storyline is not front and center in the movie. It is very backgrounded. It is kind of side parts of conversations like, oh, where's your husband? Oh, he's not here. I'm sorry he couldn't make it. Blah, blah, blah. We don't see him till late in the movie. But yeah, there's definitely a story there. And I absolutely agree that early in the movie, he's kind of painted as the uncaring, like can't bother type of husband. But yeah, you realize he's an oil platform worker, and those guys do like 2 weeks on, 3 weeks on, sometimes months on, and then they'll come off and and he's tired. And yeah, I mean, he's also very much like a caricature of the old Southern man, right? Who is just not a guy who's like very plugged in emotionally to how he feels. And he's not a person that knows how to respond emotionally to someone else's needs and talk about those things and feel those things and work through those things. He's just not that type of person. But
that's why I married a Yankee.
But you see by the end of the movie, in his recognition, very silently in this movie, in his recognition of the weight of this event and his decision on his own, not because she asked, just because he sees and recognizes the importance of it, to be there with her in this moment of tragedy, is beautiful. And I think that's one of the things that this script does so well. I like director wise, like maybe it's just because I read about the director and I don't like
You
him
didn't
now.
like him very much, yeah.
But I didn't there was like nothing really impressive
wasn't
going on
spectacular,
here. Nothing
no.
noticeable, but the script is so tight. It's so solid.
And
the performances
they're
are so
just
good.
amazing, yeah.
It's a great movie. I loved this movie.
I'm
I
so
really did.
glad.
I really did.
One of my favorites that I've picked for you.
Yeah. I can't
You'd put
quantify
it-
that in any kind of way, but yeah, sure.
You'd put it on one that you'd watch again. Let's
Yeah,
just
I'd
say
watch this
that.
again,
Okay,
yeah.
so then I'd consider it a winner.
Man, I don't know. Like those family movies where one of the people dies at the end is like just like this fucking kill me. Like Family Stone.
Oh,
Like it's the family movie where a bunch of huge name actors are in the movie and it's a comedy and then one of them dies at the end.
And
It's
you
like
know,
my kryptonite.
I was talking to my sister too because we were going back and forth about books that we, like have read and are interested in reading. And I feel like this is very typical of the type of book that I pick up to where it's like just honestly stories about people through time and about how the relationship impacts
Yeah.
each other through time. And this is one of those that is just completely beautiful.
Yeah.
And there are some that are not, but the stories seem to find me and they work very well on me. And so that's why I love this movie as far as, like the nostalgia that I have tied to it with the memories of me and my sisters and just my family watching it, but also just of the story itself.
If I had one critique, I think the movie sometimes does not make it quite as clear how much time has passed or that time has passed. Like some of the transitions are done really well when they do them around holidays. Like when
Yeah.
you switch to, it's obviously Christmas now. It's obviously Halloween now. But sometimes they don't make those transitions as clear. And I was like, wait, we've jumped forward in time now? I'm confused. There were a couple of those moments for me. But that's a directorial decision. And that guy sucks.
Yes. So, Scott,
Yes?
having this movie turn 30 means another movie is going to turn 30 later in the year. And what is that movie that you are going to make me watch?
It's a very different kind of movie, Elyse. It's not going to... The
Yes.
compare and contrast section next week is going to be pretty interesting.
You know
because-
that I've started watching this movie before, right?
No.
Yeah.
So I picked The Abyss, the 1989 film The Abyss, written and directed by Jim Cameron.
Yep.
I
James.
feel like James. My dad's name is James, and he
Yes,
goes by Jim.
I do
So,
because it's
that's
your middle name too.
Yeah, so
I get
that's
it,
like a
but not
thing.
people like outside of maybe film would recognize him as.
He literally
Jim
just
Cameron.
congratulated Avengers
James
Endgame on passing his
Cameron.
movie today, and he signed the congratulations to Avengers Endgame, Jim Cameron.
Well, fine, whatever. We're not all buddy with
yeah,
him like
I,
you are.
I know him personally. We're good friends.
Oh, good.
I feel like
Why
a lot
don't
of the,
have him on the show next week, Scott?
I feel like a lot
You're
of this
so
podcast
buddy.
has been me introducing the films of James Cameron to you because I feel like we've watched Aliens, we watched
have.
Terminator,
We have.
and now we're gonna watch The Abyss. You've seen Avatar, right?
I have.
Okay.
I've also seen
Titanic. Yeah.
Now, yes, I had previously watched part of this movie before with my sister. I think it was actually here while you were gone one weekend, and she was
Oh.
over, and she
Oh.
was like, "Oh yes, there's this movie, The Abyss. It is on TV. I like it. It's a sci-fi movie. We should watch it." And then we started, and I was like, "No, I'm not having it. This is boring." So this is going to be real fun for me.
Oh boy, I can't
Yep.
wait.
Yay!
Yeah, I think this is a really. Here's what I'm gonna do. A friend of mine who writes for Birth Movies Death occasionally is named Joff. He's one of the guys I meet up with at Fantastic
Yes,
Fest.
indeed.
He loves this movie.
Oh, good.
And he wrote like one of the best articles I've ever seen on this
So I'm
movie.
going to have to read that too.
And I think I want you to read the article because like I liked this movie and then I read his article and I fell in love
prior
with this movie.
to watching the movie or post
After,
watching the
definitely
movie?
after.
Okay.
The weird thing about this movie
right.
is that there is no HD version of this movie on existence. James Cameron has been talking about working.
Even though it's like this huge underwater film, right? Like it's
Well, it was 89. There's no high definition. So
well, yeah.
like,
I
they-
mean, like there's no
they're-
HD for that, but it was one that probably should be remastered, considering the. Okay.
It is going to be remastered, and Jim Cameron has talked for a long time about remastering it. But he is, as you know, James Cameron is a stickler for tech stuff in movies.
Yes.
And remastering a movie correctly takes a lot of work and time and energy.
And he's doing Avatar right now.
He's busy
so
doing
there's no way
Infinity
I
Avatar
can do
movies.
this.
I
Yes.
believe, I have to check up on this and we'll talk about it a little bit next week, but I believe he said that the Blu-ray version of this movie is coming and soon-ish.
In 3 years from now, when no one's going to care about that, it'll be like the VHS of the world.
So I can't wait for you to watch The Abyss with me and see why it's a really
Tyler.
wonderful movie that I love.
Are you going to make dinner that night?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
All right, guys, that is all we have for you this week on the show. If you like this podcast and all the other shows we do, you can check everything out at our website, doofmedia.com. We're working on redoing the website a little bit.
You are?
Yeah, I
How are you
changed.
going to
I changed
restructure
some.
that?
I changed some stuff up today.
Interesting.
So I took away just the.
You didn't tell me about that. What did you change?
Why don't you go look at it right now?
I don't want to. I'm talking to you.
Okay, well,
I'm trying to be engaged here in this conversation that we're having with each other. And now you were going to the website instead of being engaged in this conversation.
I can do both at the same time. Instead of like the list of just the different shows, it's just now the 10 most recent things we posted.
Oh, wow.
Just changing stuff around a little bit. It's been a year since we
Keeping
did
it fresh.
It's been a year since we did our redesign. So
that's a while.
I know. So just got to keep everything going. But if you want to support this show, speaking of,
I do, Scott. I want to support you and support this show.
and I think support is really important now because we are right
picture.
in the middle of completely revamping the show. This is the third to last episode of the show in its current format, right, Elyse?
Yes, can I brag on myself for a bit?
What?
I forgot I took that picture.
Oh, on the front page of the
Yeah,
website?
guys, I took that picture. That's not like a stock photo from anything. So if you don't like it, you can just say you don't like it because I took it. But
Elyse.
if you like it, you can be like, wow, Elyse, that's a good photo. And I'll be like, yeah, it's mine.
Can we finish the show now?
Yes, please do.
We're going to be switching to a podcast talking about the Orange County,
The OC.
the OC, the television show.
One of the best teen dramas
We're going to
out
become
there.
the premier episode-by-episode analysis and discussion of the OC on the internet. Right,
on
Elyse?
the interwebs. Yes, we are, Scott, because we love teenage drama shows.
We do.
And we love each other.
We do.
So we will be the best at this.
We will.
Yes.
Elyse,
Yes.
if they want to support us, how do
they
do
can
that?
go to patreon.com/doofmedia. And at that point, they can give us money. They can give us a lot of money. They can give us a little bit of money. You know, I think we're going to be restructuring. Is this okay if I announce this?
Yeah, you don't know details. But yeah.
No details, guys. But we are going to be restructuring the entire Patreon something. While I say we collectively, I am not doing anything at all with this.
Nope.
Other than just talking about it. But there will be some restructuring that goes along with it. So if you're trying to think about how much money should I give, think about how much money would you want to give in order for me to be able to contribute to this entire restructure? Be like, you know what? I like Elyse. I'm going to toss a couple things here because if I give some money from now until eternity, they're going to know how much they value Elyse. So if you give just a couple dollars, then you know what? You guys don't like me and that's not nice and I don't like you.
Whoa.
But you throw out a little bit more there and it'll be like, you know what? I understand this. We appreciate each other. So like we're valuing our friendship right now, guys. So what monetary value would you assign to our friendship?
You heard it here first, folks. Elyse's friendship is entirely based on how much money you give her. I hope all Elyse's friends are listening to this podcast and know that they've not given her a lot of money lately, and they're going to really need... Heather, Elyse needs some money. Give her some money, Heather. Caroline, some money. Who's your friend at the Pure Bar place? Money. Money. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
What?
Money, money, money.
Money.